Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday SJU. That is also the lead into Thanksgiving SJU, except we're pre-taping this, guys. We're going to burst the bubble here. So this is all happening earlier for us. We're going to talk about Hawkeye. Full spoilers on this one. So if you haven't seen the first two episodes, which are out now, if you're watching this on the 23rd of November, they should be out on Disney Plus. Go watch them and then hear us talk about them. Kim, how's it going?
Good, thank you, Eric. Much better since watching Hawkeye.
See there. I think we get a hint of where we're going on this, and I think I'm going to agree with Kim on this one. So yeah, that one final spoiler warning. Again, the first two episodes, because they put them up at the same time, it'll be one a week after this. All right, 3, 2, 1, full spoiler zone. All right. First and foremost, you just hinted at it, Kim, but overall thoughts as we get a good chunk of Hawkeye, 6 episodes. So 2 episodes, so we have a good sampling. What did you think of these first 2 episodes?
Yeah, I mean, so normally reviewing a series episode by episode, I find hard because I like to, like many people, view it as a whole and don't like making an early judgment, but such is our job. But it was easy on this because the first 2 episodes I loved, and it set up this fun, sparky show with the smaller scale that I've been craving from a Marvel property at this point. And I love the festive setting, which you get tinkly Christmas music throughout, and kind of just a lighter feel than some of the other MCU fare that's come out lately. And I think it's going to become required viewing every holiday season.
That would be great, right? You sit down, you got your It's a Wonderful Life, you got your Die Hard, you got your Hawkeye. Yeah, I really enjoyed this too. I was hopeful anyway when they announced it, and I was very hopeful from the trailer, which obviously clearly indicated holiday setting, the buddy duo thing. As many people said, it's very Shane Black-ish with that dynamic and the setting, and I the 2 episodes that we saw, I think definitely have started to deliver on that. And I also agree with you about smaller scale, because it's like, look, every single MCU project is setting something up in so much as it's introducing new characters and elements, right? So Kate Bishop is something for the future, but I don't think every project needs to be about like something looming in the background, big thing happening, and it can get weighed down if they all start to feel like that. So this being so far, this much smaller scale thing, purposely about characters that do not have superpowers, and so far in these first 2 episodes, not a single power to be seen, and they're not even like using like the trick arrows yet. And I like that a lot, but especially because I think these first 2 episodes definitely sort of nail that tone they're going for. That the Shane Black, the Die Hard, that light on its feet comedy that has stakes, like people can be killed and there's danger, but also has that very kind of cool vibe to it.
Yes, it's also got this murder mystery vibe that I really enjoyed to it, and it feels like maybe they were taking some leaves out of the Knives Out book there because of the success of that, which is cool. I love it. And Only Murders in the Building, which also has been a big success.
yeah. Also produced by Disney, if you look into it. Let's talk about our 2 main characters here, because it's a show called Hawkeye, and we get 2 Hawkeyes. Obviously Clint is, well, it's interesting. I say he's well established, which he is. He's been in numerous movies for a decade, and yet he's never had the spotlight, never had a story centered around him. And then, of course, Kate Bishop, introduced simultaneously into this show, has a brand new element to the MCU. We mentioned this a little bit before, but I think we should establish what are our feelings about Clint in the MCU to date, because he can be a divisive character, which this show touches upon a little bit, I think. And what did you think of these first 2 episodes of how they use Clint?
Yeah, well, it does, obviously in an ensemble thing like the Avengers, there are characters that if they haven't had their own kind of spin-off or solo movie so far, have been underexplored and or kind of pigeonholed maybe. And what I love about this, one of the things I love about it, and like I did with Loki, is that it shows more kind of colors to the character of Clint Barton. It's leaning into, because Jeremy Renner has an aptitude for comedy, and it's leaning into that, which is great. And it's also exploring the fallout, like Falcon and the Winter Soldier did, but the fallout of the things that have happened to him, the things that he's been through, the loss of Natasha. And there's this moment where he's watching the Rogers the musical, which we all knew was going to be in this, which is funny. You know, it's a ridiculous piece of theatre and comes across that way. But there's also this really poignant moment that he explores mainly through facial expressions, and you kind of read all of these emotions on his face. So I think that the series will delve more into the fallout of what he's been through, as well as the comedy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've liked Hawkeye throughout these MCU films. I get why he's like the easy one to make fun of and the easy one to be like, why is he even there? I felt like, you know, I liked in Age of Ultron where he, you know, has some self-deprecating jokes about you know, the city is flying and I'm a guy with a bow and arrow. I like these little moments we got with him, but yeah, we never had a lot of time with him. Everyone else got more time. Even Natasha, before her own solo movie, sort of had more moments, and because she was in more of the Cat movies, we got to know her a little better. What I really liked in these 2 episodes was sort of because he is the everyman of those 6 original Avengers, and I think we got a nice glimpse of that here, because he's famous, but it's like uncomfortable. You know, it's like the guy asking for his autograph at the urinal. The urinal, also, by the way, with the Thanos is right graffiti, I thought was a great touch. First of all, it's like a real world sort of meme, but also, like, what is it like for this dude who doesn't go to, you know, he's not rich and he's not a god, and he's not even Steve Rogers, who's like larger than life, even though he's a normal, quote unquote, normal guy. What is it like for him to kind of have this fame where he goes, which he seems uncomfortable with in all regards, and in both, you know, he's uncomfortable when someone is like, hey, my kids love you, and then he's also like when Kate brings up the fact that, oh, you need better branding, which is kind of a joke on the fact that he's not as popular as the other Avengers, and he's like, I don't care about that. I thought that was a kind of a really cool little thing to get to with him as a character in this. And I totally agree with you. I loved, they didn't hit it over the head with the Natasha stuff, but I liked how they did it a lot, like him focusing on her in the musical and just these little moments through it, I thought worked really well. Let's talk about Kate, though, because of course she's the big new addition. Hailee Steinfeld. It is a huge November for Hailee Steinfeld. Both these lead actors have 2 shows they're starring in simultaneously coming out this month, but she has 3 because she's also doing a voice on a Netflix animated series. But what did you think of the introduction of Kate, who is clearly, you know, there to kind of be this balance to Clint? You know, he's the older grumpy guy. She's the young sort of outgoing girl. What did you think of her?
I loved her way more than I expected to. You know, like a great performance from Hailee Steinfeld. Yeah. She's really assured and confident. You know, of course, she's been doing this a long time now, even though she's young. But the character, she's great on her own. I could watch this series without Clint in it. It starts off really strongly. I think this moment's from the beginning that we see on screen now, from the beginning of the episode 1, which was a fun start. But I do especially love her mismatched relationship with Clint. They're thrown together. He's very reluctant. She's this super fan. And that leads to some fun dynamic between the 2.
Yeah, I agree. She's great. Like, Hailee Steinfeld gives a great performance, and, you know, it's just very self-assured, and it's a fun thing with the character, who's also sort of very confident, but also, you know, green and screwing up a lot. You know, she's naturally skilled. She's trained her whole life. She's, you know, can do these amazing things, but you definitely feel the like fly by the pants, seat of the pants thing happening here. She's not like, we don't meet her like, and she's like the badass. We can talk a little bit more about the action in a moment, but like, I really liked her first big fight scene, which is in the Ronin costume. And it feels like she's improvising in the moment, and the things she like throwing the bottles down and bouncing them off stuff in a really cool, fun way. And yeah, the two of them, we don't get it till the end of they don't meet till the end of the first episode, but I think quickly in that second episode you see, oh, this works really well, this back and forth dynamic there. Let me ask you about some of the supporting cast we met here. I think obviously first and foremost right now is Vera Farmiga has Eleanor Bishop, Kate's mom, and then we got Tony Dalton has Jack. Am I saying Duquesne? I'm probably massacring that.
But has Duquesne.
Duquesne, you're right. Oh, that's right. I think I was going by the comic book. They changed the name a little bit. But Tony Dalton has her stepfather to be. What do you think of that dynamic and these two actors in these roles?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you kind of feel like there's something nefarious going on with either or both of these characters. That Vera Farmiga, she's generally dressed in red, which is a warning sign. I think there's something going on there. But she's great. Jack Duquesne reminded me as a character of Pedro Pascal's Maxwell Lord in Wonder Woman 84. And I enjoyed Pedro's unhinged turn in that film. I'm not sure I need the same thing again or a similar thing. He feels a little bit too dimensional to me. That's perhaps my biggest critique of this series, because I love it so much so far. He's definitely a mustache twirler.
And he's got quite a mustache to twirl, right? It's interesting. I never want to go too far into the comic stuff here, both because I don't want to like spoil everything, and also because we don't know how much it'll match. But look, the character he's playing is a notable character from the comics with a very big tie to Hawkeye that right now seems like is not the case here. They're gonna the fact that he's good with swords, that is important. He's some sort of swordsman, sure. Her mom is interesting because her mom is a non-entity in the comics. She's dead, so this is kind of a very much I think she's like mentioned, but this is sort of a creation for the show. And very quickly you're like, what's the dynamic here, what's going on? Vera Farmiga is obviously a formidable actress that you want to give something juicy to do. Let's just do, you mentioned the murder mystery element. I mean, right now, I'm like, it's Eleanor, right? Like, where Jack's like the obvious suspect. He was fighting with Armand, but I'm like, is it really Eleanor working with Jack, or is it just Eleanor on her own who might have killed him? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think he is definitely there to throw us off the scent. That's my instinct. And she had that exchange with Armand from a distance, where you could just kind of overhear a bit of a disagreement. So, I mean, maybe that's throwing us off the scent as well. If this is a murder mystery, essentially, then it's going to be someone we don't expect at this stage.
Right. And you never know, like, we might not have met the killer yet, we just, we don't know for sure at this point. But I think they're both really fun. Tony Dalton, obviously, kind of really rose up in the past couple years on Better Call Saul. And he's a really fun presence. Just that sort of bravado and the whole, I laughed a lot at the fact that he'd been reading the book about being a stepdad with her. But yeah, got to watch out for those monogrammed candies.
Oh, yes.
They can be trouble for you. Let's talk about the MCU-ness of this show. Clearly, we talked about the Natasha. It's post Endgame picking up here. But what did you think about sort of its other ties? We should talk about the opening scene of this show and how we meet Kate. What did you think of that introduction? Once it said 2012, I was like, I have a feeling I know what's about to happen.
Oh, right. Yes, of course. So that takes place during the Battle of New York. And I really liked seeing this again from another perspective. How many more times will we see this battle in the MCU from another perspective? But I'm all for it. It's such an integral part of the MCU. So yeah, I liked the way that it's embedded that into this show, and it's a springboard, and that moment is where she developed her obsession, shall we say, with Hawkeye, and sparked her passion for archery, and I imagine all other things that she's excelled at.
I really like that too. I think it worked really well. First of all, we should mention that this show, the head writer of the show, Jonathan Igla, comes from Mad Men, Masters of Sex, Sorry for Your Loss, a bunch of shows. And the director of these first 2 episodes is Rhys Thomas, who's done a lot of SNL stuff. I think that was really fun, and I really admired. I went back and watched that opening again, and I was like, they show like one close-up of Hawkeye from Avengers, but they mostly try to keep it from her perspective far away. Like even when he does his cool big jump, which is a big, great shot in Avengers, it's only from the side far away we see it as he crashes in the building. And I think that's really smart because, this show is going to be about a girl who grew up idolizing Hawkeye and wants to be like him. And I think that's a great way to sell it, because in these movies, they're saving people left and right. There's, all these innocent people around. And I like the idea of like, let's pick up with one random person that he saved in a very famous movie that we saw the better part of 10 years ago. And I think
it's lovely that that he is her hero, because he's the normal one amongst them, the everyman, as you mentioned earlier, of course, and of all those superheroes, I guess she's gone, I can do that. I don't have superpowers, but I want to be that.
No, I think that's a great point, because I think for the people who like to mock and take down Hawkeye and say, like, what do they need that guy for? I like the idea that, well, he would be someone who could be very aspirational, because you're not going to be able to train to be Thor. You're probably not going to get a suit of armor like Iron Man. Even Captain America, had some super soldier, formula to help him out. But if you see a guy who's just really great with bow and arrow and saved your life, I think that works very well as being like, that's what I can do and want to do. So yes. I think it serves that problem. By the way, that is some amazing real estate in New York. I know that she comes from a rich family, but damn.
Oh, I know, right?
It's like that. Yeah, the bishops are doing well for themselves. It's a great little touch, by the way. I like when she goes to see her mom at work and she throws her stuff behind the receptionist desk. I'm like, oh, boss's daughter.
Yeah. You mean you've never done that, Eric?
It's possible. My parents do not have bishop money.
Mine neither.
But my dad did have an office, and I might have done that a little bit. Let's talk a little bit more about the action scenes in this. I don't think we've seen that there's some big ones coming. Actually, Disney Plus Day showed us a big one with a car and a bridge and whatnot. But here they're a little more of toned down stuff. Like we said, I mean, Clint doesn't pick up a bow, right, in these first 2 episodes, except in flashback. But what did you think of what we got here of the fight scenes early on?
Yeah, I mean, actually, the fight scenes were underwhelming for me, but that's not what I'm here for with this show. I'm sure, as you say, we'll get some more spectacular, although I'm looking at this now and this all looks pretty spectacular, cut together like this,
right?
But my favorite action scene, if I can say, at this stage, is the LARPing sequence. Yes. I laughed out loud continually through that, I think, and I loved the slow motion in it and just everything about it.
That was so fun. His expression of just like, ugh, I gotta do, as he effortlessly kills all the other LARPers with his toy sword, and them screaming in agony, going for it. That was really fun. There was one girl he walks up behind and taps her with his wood sword, and she's just like, screaming. And I think he swirls around, he kills a bunch at the same time. Good stuff. I do agree with you. Yeah, there was nothing super standout here. I was having a little bit of I was going to say argument. We were not arguing. A discussion with a friend of mine who'd also seen this episode, and that bothered him a lot. But I think there were little things I definitely admire. Like I mentioned, Kate's first big fight scene has Ronin. It's all very sort of comedic, but I think it works really well with her shoving the one bottle through so it flies at the guy. She tosses one from one hand to the other and hits them with it. I thought there was a really fun there. I do think the kind of coolest moment was in the trailers, so it kind of lost its impact, which is Clint catching the Molotov cocktail and throwing it back. That is a very cool moment. But yeah, there's nothing grandiose yet. But I like you, I'm not necessarily looking for that. I don't think it has to. Now, it is a show called Hawkeye, so there better be some big eventually, you want some standout archery moments.
Well, I enjoyed the bell tower sequence.
Yeah.
Is that enough? Maybe not.
Not enough, but I like I agree with you that it's a good way to sort of set the table, introduce Kate, who can do this miraculous shot but also screwing up right now. So yeah, I'm not too concerned about that right now because I'm so like into the vibe of everything else. I mentioned right before we started taping, kudos to the guy in the LARPing scene who keeps going clang clang to make the when he has his one-on-one with grills. I like that quite a bit.
Well, I hope that Clint has the taste for LARPing now and does go back.
I would love that. That feels like a fun thing to show that he revisits those LARPers more and more going forward. Looking out, is there any other sort of like highlights or things that struck you about these first 2 episodes?
Yes, I have to mention, I'm going to call him Lucky the pizza dog, although he hasn't been called Lucky yet, just the pizza dog. Because who doesn't love a dog? He's one of a handful of dogs in the MCU now, and I am very much hoping, and I did some junket interviews last week for Hawkeye, and we discussed the possibility of Lucky meeting up with Fanny, Yelena Belova's dog.
Yes. I mean, given what we are assuming is going to happen in this show, that's very viable.
Exactly, but they gave nothing away. Well, maybe some clues.
I don't know if you watched the Marvel, those Marvel Legends little like recaps they do going into each new show, and the one for Hawkeye pointedly ends with the post credit to Black Widow. So I felt like they're like, okay, loved Lucky as well. Lucky was a very good boy. My wife was on the edge of her seat when he's in traffic and she's needing to run over to see.
Yeah, when he gets kicked by the tracksuit mafia guy.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned tracksuit mafia, only because it would be very remiss to not mention Matt Fraction, who is listed. I didn't know he was a consulting producer on this show, but this pulls heavily. It's not a direct adaptation. It can't be, just because Clint's married and there's different things they couldn't make it 1-to-1, but it pulls heavily from the Matt Fraction written comic book that was about kind of Clint having very street level adventures with Kate Bishop. And I don't know if you've read those, Kim, but I'll say as someone who has and is actually rereading them, I just went back and started rereading them. I definitely really enjoy those parallels. And the Tracksuit Mafia, Lucky the Pizza Dog, a lot of these things are pulled right from that comic. The Tracksuit Mafia calling everyone bro is pulled right from that comic. So I definitely it's a really cool, because again, they can't do a direct adaptation. These are 2 universes that are very different, but I think the way they're still evoking it and is really cool. Kudos to that. And then only other thing I wanted to mention is how great I love I really like the credit sequences to both episodes, which were different. I wonder if they're going to change every week. It seemed like, because the first episode was kind of showing you Kate's training, which I thought was really fun through the years. The second one was more traditional, and maybe it'll just be the credits every week. But I loved them. I loved the music. I loved how like the stylized, which was it's very evoking. I hope I'm not getting his name wrong. David Aja, but the artist who worked with Fraction on most of that run. There's definitely a vibe of him that is in there. So I thought that was really cool. Did you enjoy those credits and the score as well?
Agreed. Yeah, both things with you on that. Really, I love it when they pay particular attention to detail to things like that, and yeah, it looks great. I wanted to mention an Easter egg as well. Are we discussing Easter eggs?
Sure. This is it's spoilers, baby. Let's do it.
I mean, there was when they go to Kate's friend's aunt's apartment. There's a poster on the wall of a I think it's a fictional movie.
Yes, I wrote this down, but I didn't look it up. So now I'm hoping you can help me here. Yeah.
So I was looking up the names, and one of the names is Moira Brandon, and she is an actress in Universe who has connections to Kate Bishop. So I do wonder if she will come into it in in a bigger capacity at some point. There was a lot of focus on this poster, so it felt like it was quite significant. But otherwise, it's just a neat little, you know, Easter egg that they love to drop in.
They sure do. Oh, you know, I wanted to ask you, why do you think, because it's one thing, it's slightly, and I don't want to say trouble, but I was curious, why do you think Clint wants that Ronin costume back so bad? He doesn't need it. It's not like it has like something dangerous in the costume itself. So what do you think the significance of that is to him, given what it would evoke for him?
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. I mean, I think I surmised that it was because it was a part of his past that he was trying to reconcile with, and he wanted that back to kind of make peace with it, or work it through, maybe, or maybe even to make sure that it's off the streets and stays off the streets, because he's found, you know, with Kate wearing it, it stirred up a lot of trouble. So maybe that.
Yeah, I think so. What I'm hoping for and hopeful for is he will likely, as the series progresses, maybe talk to Kate directly about that time of his life. And because the one thing is, she doesn't, you know, I don't even think he's directly, no, he didn't tell her in these 2 episodes. He said that that person made a lot of enemies, but he didn't say I was that person, you know. Also, we just have to go with it's TV, it's fiction, it's coincidence that the person she so idolizes in the world, she happens to get a costume from and doesn't realize it. That's just how it works in these stories. So I do hope, though, that a couple episodes in, maybe he'll talk to her directly. I remember Kevin Feige saying like 2 years ago, this show would kind of delve into his time as Ronin more. And it's not clear if that'll be directly through flashbacks or just him through this bond he has with this new protege, sort of discussing, I think, that time with her. Because I think that's, oh, sorry, go for it.
Yeah, well, this doesn't answer why he would want it, but there's a tie-in. You know, we had the reveal of Echo at the end, and I think we'll probably talk a bit more about that of episode 2. But she in the comics wore the Ronin costume, so maybe it's a way of bringing it to her.
Yes, it certainly seems like that's possible. Yeah, we should mention that. We know she's a big character here who we're recording this you know, a week before the show premieres, but we're a couple days out from Disney Plus Day, where they officially announced she's getting her own show. The trades have reported it, but Marvel Studios hadn't officially come out and said it. So yeah, we kind of know she's getting a spin-off, so they definitely have big plans for her. We only get that one silent glimpse of her where that cool music I mentioned kicks in. But I think you're right, Kim. The fact that in the comics, she, not Kate, was kind of the other Ronin, probably significant as far as possibilities for where that costume went. Obviously, it's too early for us to have a big impression on Echo yet, but curious to see where she goes. Oh, by the way, I keep saying we're wrapping up and then we're not, because I think of one other thing. I definitely appreciated, you know, again, in the comics, Clint has a hearing aid that is for a very specific reason from a story that we never saw in the MCU. I actually really liked here, because I thought, because people had spotted it in the trailers and they're like, oh, what will they say is the reason? Is it when Avengers compound fell and he was basically underneath it in Endgame? And I like that he's like, can't tell, like, you know, too many things.
Take your pick.
Right? That he's a normal guy who's been around a ton of explosions and crashing through things. I think that's was a great way to handle it.
Nice touch.
Yeah, nice touch, and then and a nice, again, humanizing element to add to Clint, that I know, you know, means a lot of things to people, that he is a hearing impaired character, and I really like that. And clearly, knowing what we know about Echo, that will come into play as we get to know her. So I think that does it for our discussion of these first 2 Hawkeye. We were very big on it, clearly. Please let us know what you thought in the comments. No AMA this week because we're not doing this live, but I think in future weeks there'll be definite opportunity for that. So, but let us know what you thought below. And happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate it. Happy week of November for those who don't. And we'll be back here with more Fandom. Thanks, guys.